Welcome to Keith and the Girl. I'm Keith Malley.
I'm Chemda.
Gabe Mollica. Hello, Gabe. How you doing?
Oh, I'm living the dream, Keith. It's good to be here.
Lizzie Cassidy said, you got to know this guy, Gabe. I said, it's no problem at all. In fact, I'll let the audience know right away in case he's not good. It's her fault and not necessarily ours.
Please blame everything on Lizzie. Yes, that's a good idea.
I think she likes that, right?
Yeah. She'd love that.
Gabe, of course, is a stand-up comedian. He's also doing a solo show, one of these one-man shows, right? That's where it's stand-up, but it doesn't have to be funny all the time.
Yeah, almost never.
Show, right? What makes it different? What makes a solo show different than stand-up?
For me, it's like the show. My structure is like 20 minutes of jokes and then one 40-minute story. But I'm a little different in that I was going to open mics knowing I wanted to do solo shows. Like I had that Birbiglia, Chris Gethard thing in my head. Mm-hmm. And so I would meet comics like Lizzie and she'd be like, "Yeah, I want to work clubs." And I'm like, "Oh, clubs are fun." But like I think what I'm best at is just putting everything in an arc. So that's like,
do you find the crowds more classy? Are they more reserved or more behaved?
Do you find that having an arc gives you a little more respect, maybe less people punch you or heckle or whatever, you know?
You know what's funny? I did Edinburgh this year and we tried to film the show at 3 angles. And it's the only time I open the show by going, "Hey, this is a show about how I don't have friends." Immediately get heckled. 2 guys have to get kicked out. And then I did the whole show just out of my element, kind of like, oh, I hate that. And I just have myself bombing at 3 angles, which is such a nightmare.
What are the heckles when you start with "I have no friends"?
This guy yelled, "We know."
Oh, okay.
And was like, "It's not that kind of show." I know, it wasn't bad. In the movie of my life, I was like, honestly, not so bad.
And then what do you do right after? You got me good, or do you know, like, "Hey, I'm recording this. We have to kick you out"?
Yeah, you know what I did? I kind of like paused for a second and allowed the crowd to kind of like turn, like Anthony DeVito was there and Julia Solomon. I kind of allowed them to like turn around and be like, "Hey man, like not the time, like any other show. There's 25 other of these you could have picked from." And then when they started talking again, that's when like teacher voice came on and I was just like, "Hey man, you can't talk. Like we're really trying to get this." Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was one of the worst days of the Fringe.
Did they meet you afterwards about what a good team you guys made?
Thank goodness they did not, because they looked like kind of bro-y. I don't know how they got in. They found me. They were not my crowd.
I'm so surprised that that's the description of these people. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird.
You know, before I understood stand-up, and this is not an excuse where I start a sentence with "before I understood something," but before I understood stand-up, I really thought it was a free-for-all, and I have gotten threatened to be kicked out of a club. And I really thought like we're all partying, we're all having a good time, and I really needed to understand by a couple of not one. A couple of stern chats with like whoever it is that needs to like, you know, go, "Can you shut the fuck up? Like, not everyone wants to hear you right now."
I think it's the comedians that confuse the normies. And I think it's the comedians for going, "Hey, where you from?" when it doesn't matter where you're from. They didn't have a joke ready for where you're from. We're not even going to hear where they're from.
Are we blaming the victim? Because I'm happy, like this is my fault. Again, I don't want to start with I didn't know better, but for the record, I didn't know better, and also it's my fault. But yeah, for some reason it was confusing. Maybe it is because, on Broadway shows, they don't go like, "Now you guys," like that's not a thing. In concerts they do. And I definitely sing along. I'm allowed there. But yeah, I was that asshole.
These stand-up shows, they start with, I'm not taking away this from you, Henda. No, okay, we all agree, asshole. But they come out and they start for the guy emceeing. He starts putting together a dating game show. People start yelling their ages and where they're from again for no fucking reason. It gets confusing then when the first act comes up and asks a rhetorical question. Don't involve the audience. How many shows have you seen where they go, "Hey, where are you from?" And I'm like, this is gonna haunt you in literally 15 minutes.
You know what? I think I should try it and like be on the other end of it and go, "You know what? My shows, I invite heckling, but I charge you for it." So you'll see it on the bill later. It'll be a Chemda charge. You'll be like, "What's a Chemda charge?" Boom! Now you're Googling my name.
And it comes up I'm getting paid. And that doesn't help anything. How about one flat fee? But I feel like I have to mention this. Gabe got into stand-up himself through heckling. Is this a true story?
It's true. I got drunk in Edinburgh and I walked into a show and I said, "Hey, is it my turn to comedy?" And after some back and forth, he like sat me down. He's like, "Be quiet." And so I was quiet. And then I went, "He's not very good, is he?" And he's like, "You want to do comedy?" And so like I got up there drunk and like the whole audience hates me.
Sure.
And I tell like my first joke ever and I bombed. And I tell the story in the show, but like I tell this awful joke and then I'm bombing. I realize I'm bombing. I drop the mic, walk out the venue into a cab and immediately throw up. And someone
In
else
the
was had
cab.
in the cab, yeah.
Oh.
And somebody had else at the exact same moment had tried to get into that cab. So it was basically like one of the worst moments of my life.
And
Is how
that
I
cab
started
driver's
comedy.
life. He's like,
Yeah.
somebody else almost got this cab. This motherfucker, quick on his feet.
Yeah.
Not with his
It's a
words,
little-
but hey.
It's a little worse
Yeah.
for these other people, I think. Well, what was the joke that didn't go over?
So the joke is, my name is Gabriel. I'm named after the angel Gabriel from the New Testament. In the New Testament, the angel Gabriel tells the Virgin Mary she's going to have a child named Jesus. Therefore, if I worked at a Christian summer camp, my pickup line to women would be, "My name is Gabriel, and the Lord has sent me here to put a baby inside of you."
Oh,
Right, and not enough
Bad
words.
joke.
And then you said, "I got to make it be a one-man show."
Yeah, I got to turn that.
Was-
Now it's the
Did
40-minute story.
Did you add a punchline to that in your solo show where you go, and now the punchline is you literally get to punch me? Because
Yeah.
so
The save line in the show is, they actually hated that a lot more than you did, because it's usually completely silent. So I try to like cut that a little bit, and I preface it by saying like, we're all on my side. I'm on your side. I hate me too. Now let's tell the joke.
nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now this solo show, you start by saying, "I turned 30, and it occurred to me that I don't have any friends." How old are you now?
I'm 30.
You are 30 now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. I like these true stories. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even if you change it next year to 31, I like
Yeah.
that I'm in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And why does it hit you? Because 30 is a round number, or is this related to your mom being ill at the time? She's fine now.
You guys do your research. You're the best. Yeah, my mom got sick and she's okay now. I'm glad you asked. She's doing well. But when I told my friends, like, "Hey, this is what's going on," they did not handle it the best way. Like, I got like medical advice from some of them. One of them asked,
You're like, "It's cancer," and they're like, "Yeah, I had a sore throat the other day." Did you
Yeah.
go to the dentist recently?
What was that?
No, the whatever. I noticed I had a problem. I had to go to the hospital, and every listener is telling me what my problem is. I'm like, I'm not necessarily asking, but it's just funny that my problem is whatever you happen to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, that doesn't make them bad people. I think I talk about this in the show, like men in particular, like try to just like find an answer before we like listen to what the problem is. And so my friends were just like, "Oh, like the best thing I can tell him is like how his mom can be financially compensated for this injury," or like shit like that. And I was like, "No, that's not helpful. I just need you to ask me how I'm doing." And so that moment is kind of like this thing that triggers this like, all right, why do I not have any friends? Like, why is it hard to make friends at 30? Why are women better at making friends than men are? And that kind of like starts the whole show. It's like this moment that my best friend Nick kind of like, for better or for worse, like kind of fucks up. And then by the end, we have some resolution with that.
Is Nick still your friend?
He is. He's one of the funniest people in the whole world. And he was just like, whatever works for the show. And the show ends up kind of being about him. And so he gives me permission to like talk about this, like, nobody's perfect. This like one moment in our relationship.
But he also shows how that is your relationship and was your relationship, I assume, because it's not like you spoke with all your feelings before that, and all of a sudden something happens where you need to speak about your feelings, but all you know is to face forward and watch a ball go between other people's hands and, go, "Huh? Did you see that?" And go, "No, I didn't see it. Do you have that rewind button?" "I do. We're in the future. This is so cool. Anyway, How you doing?" "I'm doing good. Wings are good." And it's like, okay, but you're friends and you're close friends. But how would you ever know how to talk to your friend about a mom that's sick?
Yeah, that's a really good point. When the message that I like say in the show, like he didn't handle the best, like I probably should have said, hey man, and this is how I'm feeling about it. Hey, these are the 3 diagnoses that it could be, and this is how I'm feeling about it. Instead, I just sent him 3 diagnoses, and he was like, oh, I know one thing about this one. I know stuff about bulging discs. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And so I wasn't coming
basically
to
the
him.
same. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, that's really smart, Hemdo. Damn, I need notes from you.
well, I'm a woman. Fucking sucks, Gabe. just don't be in your feelings. Keep being ignorant. You could write a whole show about it, and people will still fucking love you. Hey, I don't know one feeling. Come watch me talk about it.
I don't know one feeling is my next show. That's amazing.
Is there? So it seems that it's about male friendship mainly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you straight?
I am straight, yeah.
And is that interesting? Does the show go into having women for friends, or that's not even what this show is about? Because that'd be a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, it's mostly about my male friends, and I make a distinction in the show when I talk about like Nick and some of these other guys as like they're my bro friends. And then in high school, I was a musical theater kid, which you could probably tell, I guess, from my affectation in my life. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, but like, that's fantastic. The only reason to go into your past is to go, aha. All right, now we move on. Everything else is the same. Okay. But you were surrounded by a few more feelings than if you were with like theater people tend to speak their feelings through their character at least. And what was this character feeling? And now I know a feeling and things like that. So
no. So I was stuck between these 2 groups, right? I had the bros and the musical theater kids, but I don't know if you guys have ever felt this. Sometimes I'm in a group and I feel defined by not by the group, but by the thing that I also am. So like with my musical theater friends, I was like, oh, I'm the straight guy. Like I don't really fit into like all the inside jokes. But when I was with my bros, I was like, oh, like I have this like musical theater secret that like they don't care about. They don't ask questions. They don't want to know. They barely come to the shows. They come to the shows and they grill meat in the parking lot,
Oh, I love that. But hard relate because I didn't belong to any clique. And so I tried, I went to public school for the first time in 9th grade for high school. Before that, I was in yeshiva. So there wasn't like which clique are you sitting next to, we didn't even know the difference between ourselves. We found that out later. So 9th grade, I'm about to walk in that room that's talked about in movies, where are you going to sit? You have your tray. It's not about what you're going to eat. It's not about, do you have money to eat that? It's, where are you going to sit now? And I looked around
because it's like the deal, not the meal.
You know what? It wasn't business school, but we got some perks up in Queens. So I'm looking around and I'm like, holy shit, this is just like the movies. There's the black kids. There's the Asian kids. There's the whatever it is. And I'm like, well, I don't think there's like Persian kids whose father moved from Iran to Israel, met an Israeli Iraqi, then they moved when she was 4 to, Queens, and then she speaks English, but like her parents speak 50. I just couldn't find that. Plus, I didn't feel like all I am is this. Like, so I wanted to, put my tray down on this table one day and put my tray down on this table the other day. You know how I settled that? I tried to go to some, dismissive table where it's like we all couldn't find a table. Sure. I made some kind of conversation. I think we were all bored and, semi like, this isn't where we belong. The next day, the one black kid at the table, I looked over. He's not there anymore. He's with the black kids. The one, whatever is it? And I'm like, well, I don't have, okay. I dropped lunch altogether. Never had lunch again in high school.
No.
Never.
Never looked better.
I don't know where to sit. Instead, I went to the guidance counselor and said, how about I work here for this lunch and then do something different another time?
Wow. Yeah, that's very revealing about you, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. What a dork.
That's the first act of your solo show. Yeah, that's great.
I don't know where to sit is my solo show.
Yeah. Mean Girls, the movie. That's the whole thing. That's great.
Well, yeah, Gabe, except I couldn't put my ponytail down because it would just stay there, like take off my glasses I didn't have.
Gabe has a podcast called 30 Minutes with Gabe Mollica. And the majority of these episodes, sometimes he talks to comedians, but the majority is talking to people he went to high school with.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get away fast enough from these assholes. I don't know how you do it. Now, I'm from a small town. and I see what's going on social media, and I'm not missing a thing. You know, they're the idiots, the backwoods morons who got tricked by demagogues. You know, they're the people, struggling to make ends meet, but Trump has the best interest in mind. So no to social services, even though with their 7 kids, they can definitely use it. Not one friend that I keep in touch with, and no, I don't miss it. What made you go back, and how far away is your high school from where you're at now?
Yeah, so I'm from Long Island, so there's no bridges to get home, so everybody's kind of around.
Okay.
And it was
I must know what part of Long Island.
It's
How far?
It's the Long Island Railroad to Garden City, New York, is where I'm from.
Okay, still
so
Nassau.
Still Nassau, yes.
Still Nassau. 516 area code.
Yeah, I used to speak like that. I went to college. I taught myself not to. Because I was like, people think because I sound like an idiot.
Good on you. I bet you could still get into it. Or maybe when someone gets you mad, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a lot of water and Mario and coffee and shit like that. Yeah.
Coffee. Okay, so you're in Nassau.
Yeah, I'm in Nassau. And
what'd you say, Keith?
Yeah, what makes him say, hey, I want to keep in touch with these fucking jerk offs?
It was so my buddies from high school, that most of them are still either in New York or on Long Island. And then we had just these like random people that I wanted to talk to that I hadn't spoken with for 10 years since high school. One of them is a professional soccer player. Another one like toured the world doing first as a roadie, then as a bass player. And now he plays in all these like pop punk bands. And so I just like genuinely had questions, and I was like, oh, I don't drink. I don't go to bars, and it's the pandemic. So even if I did see them, like I probably wouldn't see them. So I was like, oh, I'll just get on the phone with them for an hour and get on Zoom. And we did probably like 20 episodes. And there were some real cathartic moments. I talked to one kid who was like kind of like a cool kid in high school and has since like become a musician. And at one point I was like, oh, well, I was like a musical theater kid in high school. And he was like, you were? And I was like, oh, yeah, like I don't have to be sensitive about that. The cool kids weren't paying attention. It's like this nice, like, oh, yeah, nobody gives a shit about me. Cool. That's so nice.
I was going to ask you if you found out who you were to other people. So the cool kid didn't pay attention to you, but did you have a different understanding of what you emoted as opposed to what was actually happening?
Anybody start like, do you want to begin with your apology, or should we just? Well, I'll let you get in. All right. Anyway, happy to be
right.
I was selective. There were some people I was like, oh, I probably wronged them in some way. Maybe I shouldn't talk to them, exes and stuff like that. But there was one girl across the street.
Exes in high school? You had multiple
they were not
exes?
Yeah, well, wait, let me tell you this. I was
just making friends.
I kissed 3 girls in high school, and then afterwards, all 3 of them went on to date the same guy. So that's my high school dating story. So that one's not pretty either. So I could have had him on. That would have been revealing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a girl across the street who I had a big crush on, and she had the book Holes. Lois Satcher, great book. They turned it into a movie. And I remember in 3rd grade, I like went over to her house to like borrow the book because I was like, I didn't have a copy of it or something. And I finished the book and I ran up.
Isn't it a kid's book?
It's a kid's book, yeah. But we were in 3rd grade, so it was age appropriate.
Okay.
So I run over to her to borrow the book. And then like a couple days later, I go up to her and I'm like, oh my God, like I reveal this like big plot point. And she was like, oh yeah, like whatever. And years later, she has her first kid. And I just like drop off a copy of Holes. I was like, I remember I borrowed this book from you years ago. Like, thank you so much. And she writes me a letter back and she's like, not only do I remember you borrowing this book from me, but I never read the book. And I was always intimidated by you because I thought you were smart. And so I just lied to you and pretended that I'd read that book. And for years, I've been holding this secret that you and I were equals, but like I felt so inferior. And I was like, no way. That's such a beautiful moment. I would never have known that.
Love that.
All because of the pot.
I thought she was harboring resentment. Like, I never read it. You fucking blew it for me. Spoiler alert. Might be something you might want to call out next time you want to ruin somebody's life. Thanks for the book. I'm sure my kid will enjoy it.
Are you dating now?
I'm dating around. Yeah. Nothing too serious. It's hard. The show has taken over my life. And so like, it's hard.
Any dates come from the show? Because what is cuter than having that story, whether you moved on like a normal person and lived your life or not, that you ended up hooking up with the person from 5th grade. That's a cute story. That ever happened?
I have not. I don't know. Maybe you guys have different experiences. I have not hooked up with anyone who was an avid podcast listener. But I haven't blown up yet where that's a huge option. It's not like people are throwing themselves at me like, oh, your high school podcast.
But I'm thinking
Please
the
sleep
people
with me.
from high school. Like, why not? We already know each other.
Oh, well, do you know, you guys know Ronnie Fleming?
Sure.
Yes.
He has this great joke where he's like, yeah, this girl, she was at my high school, and I don't know if you guys know this, but girls who went to my high school, that's my type. And I think about that I think about that all the time. And you can hear it in his voice, right?
Well, that's funny you should mention, because I only date people who have listened to every single one of my episodes. Because, that's like first, second, and third date. So
Sure.
how else am I going to cover all this?
It's true. They have a backlog. They have some homework.
What
You
is
can listen to
something
the best of, and that'll be like half a date. That's fine.
Yeah.
between talking to the people that you went to high school with and now looking at like, why is it hard for guys to make friends? What's an example of something that you have learned about friendship making, or haven't you? And this is just a trick to tell jokes.
I've learned some stuff. You know what I've really learned? I've learned that the bros I have in my life, like, they might not always say the right thing. They might not always emote in the right way, but when I need them, or when you give if I'm honest with them, they will show up in their own way. And that's more valuable, I think, than somebody who just like knows the exact right thing to say. About, oh, Gabe, I'm so sorry about your mom. What can I do to help? Like those people are great, but like my bros showed up in their own way. And that, for me, that's what I'm looking for in like real friendship.
Is this like people like cats more than dogs, because cats just say hi sometimes?
Yeah. It's kind of like a cats more than dogs thing for sure.
Like they mean it when they come over.
I
Like
guess they mean it, but you're just looked at it like a dog because you do dog stuff all the time, which is perfect always.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I tell the story in the show of like, I used to have a best friend and we end up in this weird love triangle and it kind of ruins my life. And he was somebody that was like kind of like my guy dude friend soulmate. And when we broke up, I was like, well, I guess I don't have a best friend anymore. I have these idiot bros, but they show up in their own ways. And I value their friendship more than like, it's kind of, I would analogize it to like a hot 48-hour romance when you're like, oh, we just clicked and everything's good and the sex is amazing and whatever. And then you have like a long-term relationship where it's like, it's a little bit more complicated, but they show up every day and they're just like, they're more important to me than like a friendship that burns out, I guess.
That's sweet. What is Nick coming to your first show?
He's seen it. God, he's seen it in every iteration. I've been doing a version of this for kind of years. And it's only since my mom got sick that like I kind of figured out what the show's about, because I told this 40-minute story about my former best friend, and it's mostly about me being 22. And so when I was able to, once my mom got sick and like I had this thing with Nick and I had to figure that out, the show kind of made more sense because it's about me being 30 and not about me being 22. So Nick's seen every version of this and he's going to come again on the 11th.
What do you want Nick to bring on the 11th?
In terms of
what do you need in your friendship when a friend, do you like your friends to sit in the front? Should he bring flowers? Should he bring like betting money? What's good to bring to your show as a friend?
You know what? Like an hour. I need him to bring an hour of his time after the show to go to a diner and be like, this one worked, this one didn't work. Oh, you tried that today? Because he'll notice things that no one else will notice because he's seen the show 15 times. Yeah, that's for me like the most valuable thing. The post-show dissection.
That's a major thing. There's this might come as a surprise to people who are the mates or the best friends of that person. They will sit with you line by line. Like I'll sit with you line by line and go, was that funny? Was this part funny? Okay, this is what I went through when I said this. I will go through the whole show if you're up for it. But it's a lot to ask of someone. So shout out to Nick. Good job.
Yeah, no, Nick's the best. I mean, and just permission to like, he was always from the beginning. He's like, whatever works for the show. Like, I'm happy for you to make fun of me. I'm happy for you to say this about me, like whatever it is.
I can't wait to hear how this guy fucked up. Was your mom's sickness, by the way?
She had, so still the doctors
nobody
don't really
asked
know.
yet.
It's either it was like a multiple sclerosis like incident or like a stroke in her spine, and the doctors are kind of, since she's recovering really quickly, like they still are kind of like up in the air about like what caused it. But she's fully recovered. I mean, she's walking. She's independent. She's going to work. But for a while, her foot went numb. She had all these internal problems. And it's
Was
been
that better for the show?
you know, I'll tell you what, Keith, I used to not say my mom. Now I've added it. That was like, my mom's fine. Thank you for asking. I say that like 6 times during the show, but I used to not say it. I used to be like, my mom got sick and I have no friends. And then at the end, people would come up to me like, is your mom okay? And I'm like, oh, the whole time you were only thinking about that one detail. You got to tell people your mom's okay.
What would, if all your exes got together and
they have,
did they hang out?
Well, the ones in high school all dated the same guy, so they all know each other.
What was that other guy like? Was he like
short, Greek, a runner? Very weird. Not like me at all.
Are you not short? Because
no, I'm 5'10", but he was like significantly shorter than me.
Well, you look Greek. You can pass for a Greek.
I could pack for Greek. Yeah. I get really dark Greek skin, kind of olive.
So do they just have a type like, oh, this guy could tan? Like maybe you're in Long Island, you're like, okay.
That's a really great question. I don't know what we have. I would love to ask them. Maybe that's a good podcast.
Send them our email. We'll interview them together. But yeah, what would they say about you other than we'd rather date this guy?
That's a great question. I'm kind of horrified by that answer. I think they'd be like, he's a nice guy who just didn't know how to date people in high school. I like to think.
Have you dated as an adult?
Yeah, I've dated as an adult for sure. I've gotten slightly better.
What would they say? That you've gotten slightly better? They hope. We don't know his high school girlfriends, but we hope this is better. Actually, we don't hope this is better. What do they hope?
Yeah, I have this weird, I don't know, it might be like a commitment issue. Like my life feels like you see my room, like I'm a mess. Like I'm barely holding it together. And like I for the most part, I've only been working on this show. It's like my only creative thing for years. And so
I am gonna say I am impressed how much you the least gave a shit and allowed Zoom to hide some of that garbage behind you. You are just open to the public. Usually people face a different way. They put a curtain behind them, a terrible background. What is happening behind you?
Well, you guys were like, are you straight? And I was like, can you see behind me?
Those plastic bins you have, like it seems like a choice not to close them. Do you know what I mean? I mean, don't even bother looking around the room. The whole place is a mess. But just the drawers, for example, it's like that's a conscious choice.
It is. Well, you know what? Like, so you're like, oh, why don't you have a girlfriend? I was like, I can't even fix my room. Like, I'm like, my head is like thinking about like in the clouds. There's like not a dishes. Yeah. I do dishes. I'm clean about food.
Okay.
I just love that Keith saw all that. I don't know what's happening on the walls even. There's a curtain rod without a curtain. There's like something must have been taken off the wall and the remains of it. I have no idea what's going on, but Keith saw that the drawer was not closed behind you.
Because
and it's plastic.
I can understand sticking everything on the bed and then you think you're a different person. So that goes back on the floor, then back on the bed. I've been there. It's embarrassing, but I've been there. I don't know how you look yourself in the mirror at a certain age, though. But the drawers are so easy to just push in that's why it stood out to me.
Just for the record, Gabe, and you might already know this because I know you listen to the show, but that is why Keith got a divorce. Now,
evidence, yeah.
For the record, I don't know that you'll hear that his wife was like, it was the drawers. I should have closed the drawers. Keith was the best. I don't know that that's her story.
We're not at the psychiatrist's office, but I have to assume she mentions that.
Yeah, I mean, so like you're like, oh, are you ready for a romantic relationship? I'm like, I'm not ready for anyone to see where I live. And normally it's a little bit clearer than this. I will say.
Of course it is. Of course, that's
sure,
what I
always
Monday.
Say. I mean, it's Monday after.
It's show week, We open Wednesday,
My mom used to walk into anything of mine and go like, how could you be okay with this? And especially as a woman. So I would say that you're probably going to get a pass from most women because that's what we were taught. We should clean up the room. So maybe because you're 30, you didn't really, the females in your sector are a little bit different, but I doubt it because that shit runs deep. Listener Liz is saying the bed is a drunk drawer. She's also saying the one photo, though, is really pulling the room together.
Oh, that's good. What is it?
What's that a photo of?
It is an art piece of
No, it's not.
behind me. I swear. Somebody,
it was on the floor. You didn't know where to put it, and you nailed it. What is it?
my friend had an old copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and he like cut up some of the big pages, and he drew a To Kill a Mockingbird kind of stencil on it.
Could he do 6,000 more of those, and you cover your room with it over the screen? Now that's your business. I just wonder if it's subconscious, but you forced it to be mine. Do you think it's subconscious that you don't take the next adult step in your life? Like, yeah, you do seem to want a relationship that's romantic, but you know what?
Do you think he doesn't sound like he wants a romantic
You don't
relationship
think
to
so?
me. No, to me, he sounds like all those guys on Alone where it's like they get so fucking hungry that they don't even realize. And they're like, man, I miss my wife. I'm like, I know. You're really just hungry. You still love your wife. I buy it. I buy all of it. But you're hungry. All of a sudden, you know what? It's wrong that I'm away from my family for 30 days. That's crazy. That's Christmas is coming. Have you heard of Chris? I can't just stay here. I mean, I could go on forever over here. I love it here. I love every minute here. Now, I haven't eaten in 2 weeks except for 5 berries and half a squirrel. But I miss not my mom. No, that was a Freudian slip. That I miss my wife. So it sounds like that to me. It's like, yeah, I'd get a girlfriend if they didn't ask me to do shit. But he's dating. That sounds like where he wants to be. Let's
You
let
can't
be
bring
there.
him over. What do we think, Gabe? Who's closest?
I think there's a part. I think I have this like mental block where it's like I would like to get a little bit further along in, and this might be just like wrong-headed, but it's like I want to be able to quit my day job and like be doing comedy full time, or like figure out how to like live more of the life I see myself living in the future.
Pillowcases.
Yeah, and then I'll cover the pillowcases. I'm a pretty violent sleeper. And so, like, I move around a lot.
I see that.
And so the pillowcase just flew right
on
off.
your bed. You're very violent. He has to check. I exaggerated.
Oh my God! This is
I don't know anybody from my high school. But I do see them online, and for them being anti-Hollywood and put in a full day's work, even if you're being taken advantage of, they all got facelifts from the same blind person, and it's the weirdest, saddest thing. Like you're trying to fit into everything you pretended you hate against. Somerset, Pennsylvania, we were salt of the earth. Only whites. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Only straight, only white. Yeah, and then there you are. You're trying to look like, I don't know, Meg Ryan in 10 years from now. Strange.
Well, that's because you never looked like Meg Ryan to begin with. So,
right. Yeah. Gotta start with her at least.
Yeah. But this is so funny that we're talking about this now because recently a high school friend of mine that I used to go clubbing with got in touch. And she is like the nicest person you could meet. And we just kind of like went in different directions in our life. So I'm excited. We're going to reunite and see what's up. This was also a person because she was Israeli from an Iraqi background, just like and now is in the United States, just like my mother. My mother was in love with her. She's like the only person I could bring home to meet my mother and to say hello. And I could see in my mother's eyes, like, this is the daughter I should have had. And I wish that I could have switched with her or something. Cause I'm like, you can have her, Mom. This is nothing like I want to do. Like, cause she's just like, helping my mom. She's being like the perfect daughter. And I'm like, I can't do this for you, Mom. So I'm going to meet my mother's favorite daughter soon again.
That's nice. You should have sat with her at lunch. She sounds like lovely.
Oh yeah. I don't know where these people were. Yeah. I have no idea.
You find out about old peoples that you went to high school with, and we just assumed, they were smart, we're all on the same level, this kind of thing. Now you see them as adults, and they have some of them have the most ridiculous political opinions. Did that ever come up during your talk? And you're like, I wish you didn't start with that, but I'll ignore that for now.
I was pretty selective about who I asked. There was somebody who went to my high school who DM'd me and was like, hey man, great podcast. I'd love to do it and talk about Bitcoin. And I was just like, you'll never do the podcast. Like, under no circumstance am I having you on this podcast. And like so he added me on Instagram. I added him back. I got the DM and I just immediately unfollowed him. I was like, absolutely not. We're not doing this.
You remember they got an F in math. This guy's going to teach you about Bitcoin.
Yeah. And it was before the crash too. So when it crashed, all my friends were like, now it's time. Have him on, have him defend this like garbage currency.
It's my high school people now, they have these disgusting right-wing, flat-out racist attitudes, if you ask me. And you know, they're like, the good old days. You remember the good old days? I'm like, yeah, you mentioned a year we were 15, didn't have to work, couldn't if we wanted to. Those were the good old days. Those were the good old days. And now it's like pronouns. My dad would wake me up to go to school, and if I was late, it wasn't the worst deal in town. Those were the good old days.
Yeah, that's brutal. Those are the worst. Those are the worst people.
You know, you see him on Twitter. Oh, we could. Elon Musk, he's back. He took over Twitter. Now we can say whatever we want. What didn't you get to say?
I know.
Look at social media. It's like, here's my gaping asshole. Please be kind in the comments. What weren't you able to say?
Yeah, Twitter had no porn rules. You could post anything.
You could do anything. And somehow your hate speech was so bad. They're like, nah, this is too much. It's killing people.
The people celebrating that are literally Kyle Rittenhouse and Elon Musk. I'm like, the dumbest people I've ever met or I've ever heard of. Love this.
What can I just ask? Are Jews the worst? What if the statement's with a question mark? Former associates of Kanye West say the rapper has long been fascinated with Adolf Hitler. It's not just you're off your meds all of a sudden. He once wanted to name an album after the Nazi leader. Okay. And there was a Florida-Georgia football game this weekend. And on and they showed the town they're in. So I assume they were in Georgia somewhere. And a building happened to have one of those scrolling bars. And it scrolled, Kanye is right about the Jews. Somebody happened to do that, and it happened to be caught on camera from a helicopter, just showing the town.
I'm not clear if Kanye West knows who Hitler is. He doesn't like you, Kanye. I don't know who he likes less, you or me, and I'm from the Jew fucking neighborhood. Like, what the fuck? You know, I
don't think Kanye would remind Hitler he was the original Jew.
He's the original people. They don't like that much pigment in people as Hitler youth or followers. Do people bother reading the books that they then start yelling about? Like, did you read the whole Bible? Did you read all of Hitler's manifesto? He wrote it all out, all his feelings. He got the one-man show. So
the way that Biden forgave student debt, and we're getting some social programs. Elon Musk kind of forgave people for their hate speech, and he's letting you back on Twitter. The N-word has jumped 500% since Elon Musk has been letting hateful people back on, meaning people that were banned for hate speech, giving them a 15th chance.
Yeah, he's blaming bots, which as the leader of a social media company, anytime you don't want to take responsibility, you're just like, oh, the bots.
Yeah, well, quit making bots.
Yeah, quit allowing them to be on your platform.
Wait, Elon's not a bot? I just thought that's like a nickname for him.
he does not really move his face.
Mark Zuckerberg, I'm like, is this what you mean by bots?
Elon Musk showed us that we're not ready for AI when he hosted SNL. Like, it was close. You looked like a human, kinda, but yeah. I don't know that you were as smooth as one. I think I could tell and saw one of your screws loose.
Well, and then they tried to change the narrative. They were like, oh, he's coming out, he has autism or he has Asperger's or whatever. And I was like, don't appropriate people. Like, he may have Asperger's, like that's a real thing, but it's like you're just using this to get heat off of like him to change the conversation.
Right.
Like, you're the richest man in the world. Like, you have
love that. I love that. In hindsight, I had a disease.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah,
then,
that's why I'm a little different.
Well, why did you get SNL?
Yeah.
Like, why are you even on there?
They check an ultrasound in the hospital, like, ah, shit, you're racist. And now Elon's talking about this blue check mark. You know, people get it if you're a person of interest, so that people don't say they're you and put out some bullshit. And he's saying, we're going to redo that. You have to pay $20 a month for this blue check mark.
So
you can't just be a celebrity. Stephen King said, first of all, you should be paying me. I'm not paying $20 a fucking month.
It's true. It's true. If you have 1 million followers, you're more valuable to them.
Right.
Because you make stuff that people like.
Meanwhile,
isn't that also just keeping you safe? It wasn't meant as a status marker. It was meant as, I'm speaking as myself, and this is a brand that other people might pretend to be. So it wasn't like hey, I got the check mark. It was, this is really authentic.
OJ Simpson is hoping that Elon Musk does the right thing and gives him a blue check mark. And I'm not joking. He left one of his Twitter messages. Hey, here, yours truly, the multi-murderer. Elon Musk, exciting times, going to space. That's beyond my pay grade. But what I'm hoping is that I finally get that check mark, because other people are rating things and they're thinking that's the mass murderer who's rating opinions. And I'm here at Twitter World to tell you, when I say something, you should know it's from me, mass murderer.
Just other people taking credit for what OJ did. That's just not right.
I like calling someone a multi-murderer.
Yeah, that's great.
You're truly multi-murderer here, OJ Simpson. Alleged. He says it. He goes, alleged.
I got the multi-million, multi-murderer. Eminem is new for me. Now what you can do?
If I point out, that's alleged, but I definitely did the kidnapping thing. I want people to know it came from my account. I definitely am not a stranger to guns. I want people to know that's me.
I'm the only one with this account that can tell you what really happened.
Right.
And I tried to with a book, but...
Elon Musk himself tweeted out a conspiracy theory on Sunday that the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, his guy came in with a hammer, said, "Where's Nancy Pelosi?" Came across the husband instead, fought him with the hammer, gave the husband a skull fracture. Obviously, I think it's safe to assume everybody's getting political riled up, and now you think you can go into people's houses and hit them with hammers. Yeah. Elon Musk wrote, "There is a tiny possibility that there might be more to this story than meets the eye," implying that it's fake, or there's some conspiracy theory that he had a gay lover on this side, this Paul Pelosi, and that guy came in to do this. Elon's one of these people. This could affect an election. I'm not exaggerating.
That's a stupid fucking tweet. It's what information is in there?
I got jokes. That information.
You think he's trying to be funny still?
Yeah, he knows. He knows. I think pushing buttons is funny to him.
Okay. That makes sense, because all of his stupid tweets, he's not a stupid person, but all of his stupid tweets sound like, I don't even know, like, as a smart person that I know you are, you're a genius. That's why we're calling you autistic, because we don't know why you're doing dumb things when you're so smart. So when you're being called autistic, it's like, no, you're a genius. Why are you doing a dumb thing? Right. So it sounds like, the nicest version of this is he's trying to tell a joke. But am I giving people passes because I'm trying to think the best of them, That's the nicest version. I'm not saying it is the version, but that's the nicest version.
He likes being mischievous, and I don't think he understands how dangerous this is. He just knows it riles up people, and he's like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. My friend says to go viral, put up a stand-up clip of you saying something factually inaccurate and just let people argue in the comments, and you'll go viral there's 9 Harry Potter books, and suddenly people are inflamed. And I think he knows that.
16.
Yeah, that's too many.
Oh my God, get it right in the comments, too, assholes.
David,
hit dislike if you don't like what I just said. Come at me, bros.
David DePape, 42. He broke into the Pelosi's house. He attacked the 82-year-old spouse as he yelled, "Where's Nancy?" So the husband knew not to give her up, so that's good. He was charged with attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, zing, and burglary. You got to say, like, do you want to keep the elder abuse charge? God damn it. Picking on a weakling? God damn it. No, but
Bullying.
Yeah, bullying you piece of shit.
It's so funny to me when people really hate the Democrats, because I'm like, why would you hate people who are so like pretty incompetent and like don't even really believe things that are that extreme? I found where it's like Nancy Pelosi is not really an extreme person. She like kind of negotiates with anybody. So it's like if you like really hate Bernie Sanders and you think like socialism is going to ruin the world, I could see getting pretty upset about that. But Nancy Pelosi is like kind of right down the middle. It's funny that they've like turned her into a villain. Like she's kind of just whatever.
Are you trying to get a?
It's Bernie. He's saying he's not trying to get anything. He's asking questions. Why aren't Bernie? He's saying he'll look into it. He'll look into it.
I'm not sure what you just said, Gabe, but I think you're trying to go viral.
Yeah, let me say something factually inaccurate. She should never have attacked Bernie Sanders' wife, and you heard it here first.
The Pape has been living in a dilapidated school bus on the street. A neighbor says he would just give us a blank stare when we would walk by. Well, quit looking in his bus. You want him to give you a thumbs up? Hey, I'm up in a bus. The Pape's online activities include posts on an array of conspiracy theories, of course, as well as anti-Semitic comments. Why not? Pelosi managed to call 911 and use coded language to alert the dispatcher. So he had it on the speaker, it seems, and said, "What's going on? Why are you here? What are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me with your scraggly beard and mustache that's in more than the beard is and receding hairline? I'm not judging. I'm just saying glassy eyes. What's going on? What are you going to do to me? And
why are you waving a hammer and coming at me? This seems like a threat. Ouch, that hurts."
As officers arrived at the scene, coming forcefully at the right side of my head from the right-handed attacker, you. As officers arrive at the scene, Pelosi attempted to grab the hammer out of the Pape's hands. The Pape then hit Pelosi over the head with the weapon in a scuffle. Pelosi remains hospitalized.
Is it saying perp?
Did it say perp?
Yeah. As opposed to Pape? Just saying.
Oh, no, his name's the Pape, not the...
all right. Cool.
Oh, I see.
That's not... He doesn't know how to pronounce perp?
I don't know.
I would have thought they had better security.
Well, I would have went.
That's what Elon Musk is saying. Interesting. Where's all these security cameras? I'd like to see all this violence.
Oh, shit.
I would have went a different way. Like instead of like, "Hey, person who's coming and attacking me," I'd be like, "I sure would love to order a pizza in an inappropriate time, such as right now. If I could just pick up my phone and order a pizza, we can have a much better time than you trying to hit me right now at 44-2752 Road. If pizza were on their way to that place, that would be good." But yeah, you're right. What about security? How did this person get through security?
That interesting. That's all we're asking.
We're just asking questions, man.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all the news I can look at about that. That's all the time I had because I was getting riled up about Ralph Macchio having a book called "Waxing on the Karate Kid and Me."
Yeah, finally, the book we've been waiting for.
30 years later, Ralph Macchio.
Love it.
And of course, it's because that TV show is a hit on Netflix. This TV show where none of the karate adults are embarrassed they don't know karate at all. We're on season 5, and there's no shame about that. They can't keep the camera on you for one full kick. They have to show the knee up. Then maybe your foot is out. Who knows whose foot that is, hitting the guy in the face, and then the guy's on the ground. They don't even show the guy fall on the ground. Nobody took a class, and nobody's embarrassed. So it does bother me that I sat through all this bullshit. And he's like, "Would you like more secrets from behind the scenes? What? How many ice creams you ate? Because you didn't go to the gym. There's not, you hear something about behind the scenes of Thor. This guy woke up at 2:30 in the morning, started working out all day. They work around his gym schedule to make him do. What? First, me and the dog, we roll around a little bit. Do you run with the dog? No. Then I have 18 donuts for breakfast. Then, come on.
I love that you call them karate adults. That's such a funny phrase.
Well, they're not karate. It definitely is a thing.
Karate implies a child. If you do karate, you're a child. If you're not, you're a karate adult.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the Karate Kid, right?
Yeah. That's what
So-
they should have called Cobra Kai, Karate Adult.
Yes.
So Ralph Macchio was 60. So when this movie came out in 86, he was 22, something like that. His character's original name was Danny Weber. And Ralph Macchio said, this is going to be stupid. A movie called Karate Kid. That sounds corny. It's going to ruin my career. Guy's 22. Okay. I don't believe any of these stories he's telling now. You were happy. I'm going to be in a movie called The Karate Kid and I'm the Karate Kid. Yeah. No, now he's fucking Scorsese and he's like, this might be corny. And Danny Weber. And he says, then they named it Danny LaRusso, the character with strong Italian roots. And Danny said, and then Ralph Macchio writes, and that's when everything got into high gear. They changed Danny from Danny Webster to Danny LaRusso, and that's when he knew he was on to something that's gonna be great.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt this regularly scheduled anger to
Yeah.
say, like, for some reason, I love Ralph Macchio. I don't know why.
You didn't watch this show because you didn't watch this Karate Kid show.
Yes.
This was my favorite movie. And then I'm like, all right, let me see this show. The next thing you know, you've seen 3 seasons. I'm not going to stop until season 9. I'm stuck in this hell. And they kept shoveling more and more shit down my throat.
But what does he have to do with?
Personally, yeah.
No, no, did he like direct the series? What did he do with the new series? It's just
he's a producer, but yeah, he's the main guy in it. He's the main guy in it.
Ralph Macchio is in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
He's become the karate adult.
He's the karate adult now. Who never took
Oh,
Maybe you got to watch this, Hemda.
no, it doesn't sound like it. Still.
Of course you like him. You don't know he's in the biggest Netflix show of all time.
Okay, but here's my relationship to Ralph Macchio. Obviously, the Karate Kid. Sure. Yes, I got my yellow stripe. Thank you. Now, beyond that, when I was a clown, his parents opened up a laundromat, and I was the face painter for their opening. And when I tell you, this family was so fucking lovely, it never left my mind, and he can make 100 Cobra Kais. But this family event warmed me so up to the Macchios that I can't let it go. And there will never be a kick that like hurts my heart from this family. I don't know.
They can't kick. They can't kick. They're not able to Cobra Cry. I cry. It's a fucking ridiculous show, and it's personally offensive. And then to act like you're and write a book about it. He writes again. He was 22, but he says this is how the past happened. Pat Morita was going to be, the instructor, and he says all I could think about was when Pat Morita was Arnold from Happy Days. He writes, Morita owned the restaurant. He was a Japanese cook who would do shticky gags and deliver sidekick style jokes with a "bahaha" tag each and every time. I said to myself, this is going to be a disaster. No, you didn't. No, you did not say that.
The rollback is so beautiful.
May I just quickly chime in and say, please don't be mad at me, but I think he did think that. Let me tell you why.
And he's a cunt. And he's an entitled piece of shit. He really thought that. I'm a 22-year-old. I don't know about this guy. He's just going to be old Japanese. And then he turns out he's an actor. And he did a different thing. And that was perfect. And then I knew we were super off to the races.
Get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. However, I think when you're an artist, 16-year-olds are giants. So by the time you're 18, you feel really old. I did. By the time I'm 22, I feel like I failed already. And that every move I make is going to direct where my career is going. So I was doing dance music at the time, and I started getting really nervous about that because dance music goes to die, right? Because it's like just, a very small genre. And so I started saying no to this kind of music or that kind of music, but I still couldn't find my genre. But now thinking back, yeah, of course, just do all the things. Maybe you'll be in a stupid movie. Maybe you'll have like a, I don't know. But I think that you are at 22 even really nervous that your career, before it takes off, you'll be called a loser and a dork. And by the way, that guy, he was corny. The head Karate Kid maker.
Miyagi.
What's his face? Yeah, Mr. Miyagi. That was corny. A lot of it was racist in our time right now. Like, it was a bad character, but somehow it worked. I don't know why some things become cult classics and some things become like some weird fucking thing. Some
Because Ralph Macchio was such a corny bitch actor that a guy that was actually Japanese being Japanese was like, holy fuck, this guy's Sidney Poitier.
Tried to get an Italian to replace him.
I
Joe
think
Pesci.
What bothers me too about this Ralph Macchio, I bet you he doesn't know in this show that his character is a piece of shit. I don't think he knows that. Maybe like the character, he thinks the guy's missing some information, but always figures it out. Maybe this kind of thing. He's a little naive sometimes and jumps the gun. I don't think he knows that his character is honest to God, a piece of shit.
Wow.
And that the good guy now is who the bad kid was then. And I don't think he realizes it.
Gabe, do you watch this show? Is Keith right?
I don't watch the show, but Keith, I'm curious. Was this a show disappointing for you? Do you feel are you upset?
You know what? I love the acting. No, there's nothing good about this show, and I know I'm doing it to myself, but fuck you, just the same.
Maybe if you can find out if one of their parents is opening a laundromat and just kind of like hang out, you might warm yourself up.
Make the show about the laundromat.
Give him the role. That sounds great.
I bet you dirty shit happens behind the scenes.
By the way, I'm going to get to do balloon animals again for children in 2 weeks because a friend of the show, remember Peter and Sarah, who Peter proposed to Sarah on this show? Well, their kid is having a birthday in 2 weeks and they've asked me to do balloons for the kids. And I'm so excited. I just ordered balloons.
Very nice.
It does really work out sometimes, doesn't it? Good for you. You get to do that again.
Yeah, that's great. See if they'll let you do it at the Macchios. Remember me?
I'll come to set. Hey, bros.
So here, Ralph Macchio is talking about Pat Morita and says about his audition. He says, in the blink of an eye, I witnessed an instant transformation. Ralph Macchio says, I heard for the first time the one and only Miyagi voice, the cadence of his speech, the resonance, and it was all there. The perfect English-speaking guy vanished. Macchio writes, the character of Arnold was not anywhere to be found or even in the furthest reaches of my imagination. This was Mr. Miyagi. He approved. The 22-year-old approved. He's like, he didn't produce the fucking movie, but he approved.
Okay, I get it now. Yeah. This is the kind of language that your father tried to use all of your life.
Yeah.
So there's not like one way to describe it. It's not. And I had a moment with this guy as I watched him transform from his character in real life, his personality, to a character that made the pages jump, made the words become a movie that I was proud to be in. Instead, it was, and I had sure shooting. I had never seen anything like this in my life. When I tell you this man turned from an all-American Yankee hat wearing, Southern, whatever it is, he turned into this character that I believe God wanted for this role. And if you were there, you would have felt my chills if you didn't get your own.
We all know Karate Kid. We all know Karate Kid, but we're not acting like it's Shawshank. Calm down.
Yeah.
So I teach the college essay. That's what I do during the day. I work with high school seniors, and they try to write like this. They try to write like, oh, it transformed my whole life, and I've never been the same. And I'm literally hemmed all day long.
Call me a liar. The transformation that I saw.
Yeah, real life happens in small ways. I would much prefer a book that was like, it was really incredible what he did that day on set. It felt really special, and I didn't know where it was going. That's so much more human than like, and that's when I knew we would sell 1 billion copies and there'd be 5 seasons or whatever. Right. It's just not how humans talk.
Right. And I think like it speaks to what people think we want from a story. And it's like, love at first sight. I actually would not want somebody to say that about me, like after they marry me and we live a life, because I would, then that's what you based our whole relationship on. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you felt other things. And if you could find a way to describe that, I felt a tingle. I mean, we could all relate to where that comes from. That's different. Don't make it bigger than it is, because life is big enough, and smaller words can describe this emotion way more accurately.
Totally. I'm into the small stuff, the minutia of life.
The English teacher said I'm good.
Well, you're well. The scene where Daniel catches a housefly using chopsticks took, quote, lots of planning and days to finish. I'm going to doubt it. He says it's movie magic. Yeah, you and fucking E.T. flying. Okay. In the end, I believe we wound up using in the end. So it is the 1 second thing you decided on if it's in the end. In the end, I believe we wound up using a combination of the live fly on a fishing line and the tiniest plastic fly glued to the chopsticks. No shit! What else could it be, Ralph? In the end? In the end, we used the fly. It took time. First, we tried to catch one. That's impossible. Then we used the plastic one in the end. That's the secret of the fly being caught with chopsticks. Wow, Ralph. Wow.
I'm told those spaceships in Star Wars are not to scale.
No movie magic. I said, how are these toys going to make it on screen, right? I saw it on screen. That was a transformation. It looked like big ships.
My life has never been the same. It forever changed.
Tell me something that happened in school. I'm like, let me tell you about this fly. This is going to go up there with Citizen Kane. How did they get so old in such a short time?
I wonder if he wrote this or he got someone to write it, because I wonder, because I would imagine a ghostwriter wouldn't write like this unless you're giving him possibly literally 5 pieces of material that you have to stretch into a book, because that's what this writing tells me, that you have nothing to write about. So you're trying to make whatever you have to write about more grandiose.
Yeah, you're trying to cash in.
What is it? Waxing on. Okay, for a second I thought it said moving on. I'm like, because you're not, but all right. The X with a thin line for one of the X's. Okay. I'm looking up the book. I'm trying to see if there was a ghostwriter. It doesn't.
Even if it doesn't list one, it probably is.
Right.
You know what? I found out recently, like when you get a book and there's like a foreword by somebody famous, that they don't write those. They just like leave a voicemail of them talking, and then somebody kind of like punches it up and writes it out. I was so disappointed.
I get why you'd be disappointed, but now I'm like, oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, John Leguizamo is not writing like 12 pages of intro for some friend's book. It's just not going to happen.
But they overheard him talk, and this is probably what he means.
Yeah, we'll round it out. Yeah.
I like when they're doing you a favor. You rate what you want, and I'll okay it. It's like magic out of it. All right.
I recently read, or was it last year? Whatever. Can't Hurt Me. Do you guys know about this? Can't Hurt Me. By David Goggins. So he's like this military guy, who puts his body through crazy shit. And I'm reading this book, and I'm like, wow. How did he also get to be an incredible writer? Because it's like most of his shit is very physical. And I'm like, wow, he really recognized his emotions and unpacked all of this stuff so great. And then after the book is done, where you normally wouldn't read, it was like, I started reading the acknowledgments, and he thanked his ghostwriter. And I'm like, this makes so much more sense, because when he quotes himself in the book, it's different than when he writes, and I don't want to take it away from him, because it's a beautifully written book. But I'm like, but when he writes a quote, like, and this is what I said, I'm like, that's not how you write. I guess we write different. I don't know if I write the way, you have some time to change your language when you write, but and you know what? I was happy about it, because the story was so good. It needed to be told with a little bit more finesse than this person who could run literally 100 miles and then go do like, a 1,000-mile bike ride the next day. So you get one thing, sir, please. I can't.
Well, I didn't realize that about comedy specials until I started doing a long show, which is that like all those guys they're not necessarily ghostwriters, but they're like punch up people, story people. Like it's all collaborative. We think of comedians as these like auteurs who just like birth this new hour, but like there's a lot of help.
But I think that's fair for an hour's worth of material that you write on stage. If you were going to see an hour-long play, there would be punch-ups and edits and rewrites and shows in front of people where they tell you where you can change your words and your whole everything. So yeah, you should get someone to look at it, maybe punch it up a bit.
You ever see a book, nonfiction, and there's all these quotes in it, and I'm like, how do you remember? Like when I put quotes in my book, it's because I wrote it down right there and then looked at it later. This New Dad Emails book I'm putting out, those are quotes. That's black and white from emails between me and my dad back and forth. But I don't think Nikki Sixx was that fucking clever on heroin. There, I said it. This guy's on genius on heroin for a year. I doubt it. Anyway, here's what you want to do. You want to check out the show called Solo, a show about friendship. It's at the Soho Playhouse, November 2nd through the 5th, and the 9th through the 12th. 2nd through the 5th of November and 9th through the 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That
starts this week. And let me tell you something. Congratulations. Soho Playhouse. That is no fucking joke to get into with a solo show. This is like a beautiful, wonderful theater to be a part of. So, wow. I can't wait to see this.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I got like one nice review and then one recommendation. It kind of triangulated me towards that, and I feel very lucky. When I started,
it's all comedy, Lizzie Cassidy, isn't it?
I got the Lizzie bump, and she's got a lot of sway, and so I'm really excited. And if you guys DM me, I'll send you a promo code. We'll get you a nice discount.
Nice.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sweet.
Real nice. That's why we do it. Follow Gabe online, Gabe Mollica. That's his Twitter, Instagram, all that, and GabeMollica.com. That's his website. You'll see all the information right there. Gabe, very nice meeting you. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was so fun.